name, you might ask? Today in my community, we stop in by Warners Road, Britain's Hill in St. Michael.
We are in Warners Road, Britain's Hill. It's just off Villa Road, about halfway across Villa Road, left turn, just off Villa Road.
Well, before it was Warners Road, it was actually Warners Gap.
My grandparents, Clement and Amita, they bought a plantation house in the 20s. They went overseas to the US to work. So they worked there for a few years, they went in the 20s. And they came back and they bought the plantation house and the land, it had a fair amount of land with it. I remember this area being full of like cans. I remember that. All to the back there, this house where you see and all the way back, those were cans. Those were cans, but when my mom and dad were married in the 60s, here where we are sitting now, this was full of vegetables. So cabbage, beets, the yams, sweet potatoes, green bananas, and matter of fact, most of the vegetables which were used at the wedding were grown here on site. My dad is an avid farmer, or was an avid farmer, and he pigs and sheep and chickens, turkeys, that whole thing. So lots of animals were here. A fairly self-sufficient family plot, I would say.
My earliest memories would be actually exactly where the constituency office is right now. That was where I was born and I was raised until about 3-4 years in that same house. After that we moved across the road to the location where we are right now. I remember growing up, my parents, where we have where the mini mart is located right now. Initially my parents, it was not a mini mart, my parents operated like vegetable gardens. And then they converted that into a chicken farm, a small chicken farm. So they kept both broilers and layers in that space. In addition to that, they had a number of other animals, and I guess most people from that generation tended to keep stock to help to boost the income. And they kept, we had the chickens, then we had one cow named Mary, we had sheep, we had goat, we had pigs, we had rabbits, you name it, my parents kept it. We had one particular ram, that was my mother's pride and joy, really. And she was so excited when she took that ram. Named Sam, by the way, we named everything. And she took Sam to the exhibition and she came back home with a blue ribbon. And, we were all really, really excited. We were all very fond of Sam. Sam was like family. And then Sam had to go the route with which he was intended. And we had to kill Sam for the Sunday meal and to sell Sam as well. And I could honestly tell you, nobody ate lunch that Sunday at all because nobody wanted to eat Sam. But that was one of the good memories that I had. In addition to the fact that we had to work with the chickens. We were supposed to bring in the eggs every morning. We were not supposed to crack one single egg. And my parents did that for many years. And at the same time, my dad he had a stall in the market, stall number 4 that was in the Fairchild Street Market. And he also he had his own popcorn, Taylor's Popcorn. And we have quite a few families. We'd have had like the Seeley family, and unfortunately many of them have passed on. So we've had the Seeley family, we've had the Workman family, we've had the Greenages, the Rileys, the Brewsters, quite a few families that have been here, and of course the Bournes and the Warners. Quite a few families have been here for many years. I think most of them from when I was born.
Well, most of the families are still here, and because of the Freehold Tenantries Act, most of the persons who live for years and years and years, they've been able to buy the land, and some are in the process of doing so. It's a lengthy process, but some families do own their own homes from that tenantry.
Warner's Gap, now Warner's Road, was a farming community, as you've heard. But, as with many other communities in Barbados, development took root.
I think it was only paved sometime in the 70s. Before that, it was just marl.
I've seen pictures with my mother standing on the steps of the family house with a white road. So it wasn't paved or anything like that. But over time, it was paved.
And that created, for us children, activities and fun, even though it was a marl road. One of my fondest memories of that being a marl road would be the days when the rain fell heavy, and especially days when it was like horse racing days. And I guess it's Britainsill, so you know Britainsill is really horse racing territory. And what would happen on the Marl Road during those rainy days when the races were cancelled, we would have a number of guys, including some of the jockeys from within the area, and they would have races through the cracks in the road with the marl, and they would race anything that they could find. They would race like twigs, leaves, anything that they could find, and they would put in the road because it was all marl and the water would have washed away areas, so it left some tracks. And they would race these leaves and these twigs and everything right down the road. And everybody knew. It was like a whole group of guys. And everybody knew which twig belonged to them, which leaf belonged to them. And they would give these twigs and these leaves names of horses. So it was from the top of the road right to the bottom of the road where our house is located. And they would come along racing and screaming and shouting for their particular leaf or twig. Apparently I was also told that the Croton was a very popular one, because that was the one that used to win most of the races. I'm not sure why. But everybody would try to get a leaf from the Croton tree to race. And they would come down keeping so much noise, and sometimes the rain would still be falling, and they would be in the rain, and they would screaming and carrying on, and all kind of horse racing motions just to make sure they get their leaf or their twig down to the end of the road first. So that was a lot of fun for the guys doing that, usually once the rain is falling and races have been cancelled. Because we were young at that age, we weren't allowed, definitely not allowed to go out in the rain and to race twigs down the street, the gap. So my parents would put us at the window so that we could watch. But the good thing about it, that the window was basically at the end of the race. So, you know, we would have had like a grandstand seating to see the actual end of the race. So when it was a marl road, it was lots of fun. It was still lots of fun. After the road was paved back in the 70s, what we did then, like most other people in most other communities, we drew out the road tennis court. And road tennis was also a big thing for us. We would spend summers in the evening playing.
Growing up was really fun. As children, there were mainly boys in the neighborhood, just a few girls in the neighborhood. The Elliots, they live in the house just past ours, going down on the left-hand side. But there weren't many girls in this general area. The Workmans over the next street, yes. But mainly it was the guys. the street is full of guys. Since there weren't that many girls in the neighborhood, you know, as a child to play on evenings, you would play with the boys. Played hopscotch, red light, green light, 1, 2, 3, road tennis. We ran up and down the street, you know, going looking for fruit in the summertime. And so, I mean, I think, I don't know if I really classify it as a tomboy thing, but I mean, it's just something that children would do because as a child, you don't really have any notion of like boy and girl, you know, you just have a similar interest in what's going on, so you just go with what's happening.
Oh, and when we were children as well too, right, in the woods. We would call them the woods, right over there. We used to spend, that's where we spent like summer vacations in the woods, catching birds, setting traps. And we could be out there. You could actually, used to be able to walk through it. And yeah, we would spend like a whole day out in the woods doing every kind of thing, catching all kind of birds, catching everything. And just being children. And one thing about being children, you never realize when time is going by. So we would figure, okay, it's time to go home. We've been up here for like an hour, only to realize when we got home that we've been up there for the whole day. And my mother was not too pleased about that, so yeah, we paid the price.
One of my fondest childhood memories is going for honey with a group of us children. We went in the gully to the back of the workman's in Beals Gap, which is the next gap to us here. So a group of us, we went down the gully, made our way down till we got to the beehive was. And unfortunately, in our quest for the honey, we aggravated the bees. And, you know, we just ran like mad to get out of there. I mean, we were running and laughing and, you know, but, you know, just trying really hard not to be stung. But that was a really great memory for me. Perhaps that's one of the reasons why I used to be able to run so fast. I was a former athlete, field hockey, captain of Commonwealth School, as well as the Barbados ladies hockey team. Nighttime for us was good. We didn't have any distractions. We didn't have cell phones, iPads. We didn't have those kind of distractions back then. So it was a lot of fun on the evenings, the games that we would play in the road before our parents called us in. And we were that was real fun for us, a lot of fun, all kind of games we would play outside on evenings. And it was also a good livening sport. We would also chat, argue, have some strong discussions. And it was not carefree childhood. I mean, we had our fun, we had our days playing, but we also had to work. And I remember once he came home and he said to us that in the bag of popcorn, he's going to place a balloon in each bag of popcorn. And he said to us he's going to give us a box that's going to be filled with balloons. And we had to take the balloons out of the box, separate them and everything, because they were all wrapped up. And we had to separate them. And for each box, we were given a grand total of $1. Well, my brother and I, we were really excited about that, because back then $1 for box was a lot of money. And in our mind, we had the box pictured as a nice little box that he would bring. So we figured we were going to do a whole set of boxes, and we were going to get $1 for each box. So we were basically going to be rich. When we actually saw the boxes, my father came in with some huge boxes filled with thousands and thousands of balloons that we had to unwrap. And we were like, no way. And it took us like one day to do one box. So it was no get rich quick scheme at all there at all. It was torturous. But we definitely had to go through, that. So I guess, yeah, my first salary would have been like, yeah, $1 per box. And that was a summer vacation. Not much fun during that summer vacation, because there were many boxes.
what I find now that I miss most, in addition to the let me look at the activities. I find I miss the noise of the childhood. There used to be so many children, and everybody's house, the doors were always open. Everybody was always welcoming. Nowadays, you don't have that noise anymore. It's really quiet. They're not. You miss the children's laughter more so than anything else. The chatter that you used to have, and that used to go on for a long time. And I remember every time I look up during full moon, and I see a full moon, I always think we used to do so many activities during full moon. It was a good time for us because it meant that we could stay out a bit later, because at least it gave us some good light. And we used to be so excited about that. But now I come out and I look up and I see the full moon, and it's just memories. You just remember all the noise, all the laughter, all the jokes, all the fights, everything that we did when we were young.
Traditions notwithstanding, Lane and Patricia tell us how church took root in their way of life.
Oh, church was a must. Church was a must. We attended Dalkeith Sunday School.
Well, my dad he is a Methodist minister. He's superannuated, as they call it. He's not an active preacher at this point in time. But going to Sunday school in the morning time, in the evening time, that was a part of my life. We also went to church with our parents. Bethel was where we started out at first, but then we gravitated to the Dalkeith Methodist Church. I myself, probably am for now, a local preacher, but I am on leave. I'm on leave, so I haven't been active in the pulpit for some time. So after my mom died a few years ago, I just needed some time to get myself together, and I haven't been back in the pulpit since that time.
Every afternoon, 3 o'clock, we had to make our way down to Dalkeith Hill for Sunday school. But we didn't mind, because it was after Sunday school then that we get to come home and either go for drives or go to the beach. But there was no discussion. Sunday school was a must. We had to go. And almost everybody from the area would make our way down.
So periodically, the Dalkeith Church and the Bethel Church, they're in the Bethel circuit. So they're a group of churches together, and we call a circuit. So there's the Bethel circuit, there's the Ebenezer circuit, there's the James Street circuit. There are many circuits across the Methodist way of life. So the churches would come together for events, could be conventions or missionary meetings, different activities which require everybody. So it's like there's an exchange going on across the circuit. But I was a member of the Mission and Evangelism Committee, so what we would do is reach out to other churches in the general space. So we would visit them, they would come to us, we would work together on projects, different things along those lines.
The highlight for church, we were young, so the highlight for church was the annual excursion. Everybody piled into the buses for the annual excursion. We really look forward to that excursion, because it was the opportunity to leave the area and go to the countryside and see the countryside and pass places that we were seeing now sometimes for the first time. And everybody, even though people who were not members of the church, would still go to the exhibition, because it really was a community event. So we all piled into the buses. Sometimes my father would drive, but we went in the buses. And it was mainly, there were so many different areas we would go. Definitely the East Coast, we would go to the East Coast. And it was always, the excursions were always fun because you got food at the excursions that you wouldn't normally get. So there was regular food and then there was excursion food. So yeah, once a year we had excursion food, so we used to look forward to that. And then we would look forward to all the games during the excursions. And that was really a fun time. That was definitely a fun time for us.
To me, my favorite part of church was the sermon. Because for me, you get to hear from an expert, the reverend, or the person in pulpit, you know, their perspective on a particular verse or group of verses in the Bible relating to how to live. And so, to me, that was good instruction, good teaching for a young person coming out, as well as an adult too. It's a continuous process in life.
So the excursions played a great role in bringing not only the church together, but communities as well. Meantime, Elaine takes us by the sea.
Well, I must confess, I am one of the many Bajans who cannot swim. When I was a little girl, I went to the sea with my family, and I remember walking out to in the sea, and then all of a sudden I remember being tossed and turned and what's not, being terrified and, feeling like I'm gonna die, drown, whatever. And, yes, I was rescued, so to speak, and, that has stayed with me for all of my life. So I really don't go in the sea. I don't even wet my toes. Sad to say. But I've gone to the hot pot on a couple of times, and I have been in the sea a couple of times, but I don't venture too far. So I did go on one of those banana boats, banana things, towed by a jet ski in times past, fell off, really thought I was going to die there too. And I think that was the last time that I really did that. So I just kind of stay away from that. My fear has gotten the better of me. So I love to sit and watch it, for sure, but to go out there, not Elaine, sorry.
We must advise you that some of these recollections are fairly graphic. Patricia takes us back to the beach, where one of her memories has stayed with her for life.
Sunday evenings was always an evening to either spend at the beach, and this would have been down Pebbles Beach, or to go just driving around in the country. So many evenings were spent there on Pebbles. And I remember there was one particular time we were on the beach, and back then the hot pot was actually located by Pebbles before it actually moved to Spring Garden side. It was located at Pebbles, and we were there, and everybody was in the sea and enjoying themselves. And there was a guy that was fishing, and while he was fishing, the hook actually got into the eye of a youngster in the sea with us. And for some reason that has stayed with me for many years. And to the point that I tend every now and then to go walking, but I go now walking on Bronx Beach. If I walk on Bronx Beach now and I see a fisherman throwing out his line, automatically my hand goes up. And this is years after that particular incident, but that was a very troubling incident.
Most of the time when we think about places across Barbados being rich in history, we picture the wild and abandoned countryside, the sprawling plantation houses and the landscapes that we can only imagine. But oftentimes, those same memories that are rich in history can be found in the heart of St. Michael. You've been watching My Community as we continue to gather in the parish of St. Michael, and we also continue to gather right here on Warner's Road. The journey isn't ended just yet. The road, it's got another turn to make, so you got to stay with us. I'm Kimberly Sue.